we're facing an existential problem to our economy here, right? Every graduate that loses their job, that's another 10, 20k of tax that HMRC is losing out on. And that's another person that's going possibly on benefits. And at the same time, that money that we're taking away from our graduates is being funneled to a data farm in Texas and the billionaires that own them. Like, this is a serious structural issue.
Artificial intelligence has made the job market for young people increasingly difficult to access, with many graduate and entry-level jobs being lost to AI. Tobias Temple-Smith, a final-year economics student from the University of Leeds, was looking forward to starting a graduate analyst role at PMSI Strategy this September. But days before completing his dissertation, he was told by the firm the job offer had been rescinded. I'm joined now by Tobias, who's travelled down from Leeds to be with us in the studio this morning. Good morning.
Great to be here.
Good to have you with us. So just explain to people what went on here. How did you find out that the job offer that you had been taken away?
Yeah, so essentially I got the offer in December, and then, like you say, a couple of days before my dissertation presentation was due, I just got an email completely out of the blue saying, unfortunately, due to rapidly evolving business needs, we're going to have to rescind your job offer. And so I obviously panicked, and I called them up, and I called two different partners, and I tried to persuade them to keep me on. I thought, consulting, which is what I was going into, is famously quite cyclical, quite up and down. So I thought, maybe they just don't have much business at the moment. And the partner, first of all, told me, to be honest, it's actually AI. And yeah, that was a bit of a shock, and I was kind of like, of course, should have realised. And I tried to persuade them. They said I made a compelling case, but eventually they said, no, we're going to have to stick with our original decision.
And it wasn't just you, was it?
No, it was the entire graduate cohort. So that was 4 people. One had taken an offer elsewhere, but the other 2 people, one of them found out about it through my LinkedIn post because the email had gone to her spam. She messaged me on LinkedIn and said, wait, we've lost our job. I said, sorry, you had to find out that way.
And so when this partner told you, which I don't think was in the email formally, that this is really about AI, did they explain exactly what they meant by that, what they're doing as a company now? Yeah,
so what I was told was essentially they're taking a bet that it's going to be more efficient, it's going to be more competitive, to not take people on now. They're going to try and train up their current staff, their last year's graduate analyst intake, and see if they need to rethink and rehire in the future.
And I want people to have the full context here, because you are obviously, and I want to come on to ask you what you're going to do next in a moment, but you have done a huge amount of extra work to get to the point where you are at now. How many job applications did you put in? How much work experience? How many additional qualifications? What did you have to do to even get to that point?
Yeah, well, I think it speaks to my whole cohort really. Like, I put in a huge amount of effort to try and get where I was, and I'm not alone at all in applying to 30, 50 different jobs. And remember, each one of those, nowadays you have to do a cover letter just to apply. You obviously have to have your CV. Then you might have to do an online test, the numerical one. Then you might have to do an online interview against yourself, just against the camera to yourself. Then an in-person interview, then an assessment centre as well. And that's just for one. And people are applying to about 50 each. There's now 2.5 applicants for each vacancy in graduate roles now in the UK.
And you'd got all the work experience, all the additional stuff. You'd done all of that. Because people will often message in and say, well, look, if graduates spent time in the summer going and getting work experience or adding qualifications on top of university, some people say graduates are not doing enough, and that's why they're unprepared for the world of work, and that's why they're not getting the jobs. Do you think that's fair?
Not at all. No, absolutely not. I did put a lot of effort in to try and make sure I stood out from the crowd. So from first year, I decided that consulting was what I wanted to go into. I sort of ran the consulting society in Leeds and took it over and revamped it. And I also did some volunteering for another student consultancy based in the uni, and then reached out to a local consulting company in Leeds and managed to get a bit of work experience there as well.
Do you think you've been naive, Tobias? I mean, forgivably so, but you want to work in management consulting, business consulting. if you were a consultant, the first thing you're going to be asked to do is to go into a company and make savings. And the first way you're going to make savings as a consultant for another company is to suggest they use more AI. So these companies are actually, the main reason people pay management consultants is to give them obvious advice like, why don't you use more AI and lower your cost base? Were you naive to think that consultancy, even in 2026, would be immune from AI, bearing in mind one of the major tools used by consultancy is to get businesses to use AI to cut their cost base?
A CRM shouldn't weigh your budget down.
Well, it's an interesting point you make, Stig. What I'll tell you is what's scary is that when I was in first year, I was looking at lists of different jobs and what is most likely to be replaced. And consulting was low down.
Was it really?
It was low down. And I thought, fine, that's a safe bet. But that turned out to be completely wrong. So those who thought they're safe, actually, that's rapidly changing.
What do you think the answer is here? Because this is obviously something you've thought a lot about. And you obviously understand, as Stig was saying there, that AI is something that companies are using to make themselves more competitive. What is the solution?
Well, look, we're facing an existential problem to our economy here, right? Every graduate that loses their job, that's another 10, 20K of tax that HMRC is losing out on. And that's another person that's going possibly on benefits. And at the same time, that money that we're taking away from our graduates is being funneled to a data farm in Texas and the billionaires that own them. Like, this is a serious structural issue. And we need to find a solution to it. And you know what? Even the people that are in safe jobs. So let's say you're a managing director for a private equity firm. Yeah. You're earning several £100,000 a year. You're feeling safe. You can't be replaced. What do you think happens when all those graduates lose their job? You know, middle income earners make up a large proportion of HMRC's tax revenue. When that goes, and more people are going on benefits because they are out of work, who's going to pick up the tax bill? Yeah. It's going to be the people that are still in work. So if you're safe, you're thinking, I've got a job and I'm okay, you should be seriously worried about this. And believe me, whoever comes in government next, whether it's a Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, Green, or God forbid Reform, your taxes are going up. So we need to do something about it now. There are people who suggest, like, I'm not a tax expert, obviously. I have got an economics degree, but I do think that we need to find incentives to stop companies from cutting all their workers. That could be some kind of tax on companies that are firing employees to replace them by AI, in my case, or taxes directly on the usage of AI or something. But something needs to change.
Can I ask you finally, because a lot of people will want to know, what are you going to do now?
Well, you know, like I said, I got the email right before my dissertation was due. So the last couple of weeks have been a bit of a whirlwind. I've been, trying to realign and circle back. I've put a pin in that one. So no, I'm trying to.
You're heading into the right industry, I think, Tobias.
No, I'm joking. Of course. I'm going to have a think. I'm going to have a real rethink. I was really hoping to move to London with my best mate, but we're just going to have to see what happens and what comes out of this.
Well, I'm sure lots of people out there will be listening to you right now and thinking you sound incredibly employable, so people will find ways to get in touch with you.
Well, I really appreciate that, but I have to say, it's not about me, right? If people are listening to me and thinking, wow, that guy sounds great, which would be amazing, I'd be really grateful if they thought that offering me a job is not going to solve this crisis.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
What we would have to interject with first off is to say that let's just keep moving. What we're going to have to interject and basically explain in this instance is that yes, it was essentially mentioned by the other presenter, right? That wasn't Tobias quite naive in thinking consultancy wouldn't consultancy be an area that would be, I guess, high in the list in terms of AI disrupting it, which is to be fair, if you had to ask us, we'll definitely say yes. You know, whatever list I guess you could say Tobias was looking into to see that consultancy was much lower in the list is a list that probably needs to be checked. needs to be evaluated a lot more, because that list should have actually put consultancy a lot higher. Obviously, it depends on what others were in that list, basically. But consultancy is pretty much what people essentially use ChatGPTs, all these AI tools for, right? People would ask questions, and when they're asking these questions, they're looking for a consultant, like, give me some advice, right? ChatGPT is good at giving advice in an array, for an array of fields, basically, but more so business. So it makes all the sense in the world that this was going to be the case, right? For someone like Tobias, right? But what's really poignant to us, right, is the fact that Tobias mentioned that it's clearly creating there's an existential crisis right now, right? There's essentially an existential problem, right? But you have to always see the other side of things, that for every yin there's a yang, right? So if there is an existential problem, what do you think the other side of that coin is? Yeah, for those that have kind of just got it, there is an existential solution, right? So, and even if it's not, existential, basically there is a solution. There's a solution, which means if there's a solution, that means the solution has not been found yet. What does that create? That creates opportunities. Opportunities creates what? Opportunities creates the potential for job openings, right? So it might not be opportunities or jobs that others can create. So as a result, because we are entering completely new territory, this might be a situation where the opportunities are people creating those themselves. And this is an area where we're gonna keep mentioning on this channel, which is that the creator economy is something that is absolutely blowing up. We've only seen this, right, from the social media aspects of where the amount of social media creators, right, those that have become something, that have started their own channels, whether it be the channel is for them to express their personality. There's other people that are creating full-blown businesses out of this, full-blown social media companies, right? They're hiring people. They are obviously also adopting AI quite a lot, but these people are a lot more flexible than your traditional company, which is rigorous in their operations. They are a lot more lenient, as well as how they approach work is not as fixed, right? So as a result, this kind of lets you know that there is definitely opportunities, and someone like Tobias, who's clearly he's clearly sharp, is someone that should probably now utilize the fact that he is just graduated, so he just come out of that way of thinking, that the approach to education and so forth. Someone like that is going to be able to utilize these AI tools with a lot better capability than others that are maybe not that way inclined, right? So he's come out of the education system where there is a way you kind of want to work. Structured way, maybe agile Prince 2 type approaches, where if you apply this and liaise, converse, engage with AI to try to build something, right? Well, Tobias, you're probably going to find that first off, it's going to excite you, because you're going to think to yourself, wow, this is actually very interesting. So I've essentially let AI know my problem, right? AI has given me certain possible solutions right now, even if it's just early stage solutions. It's given me some ideas on what I can work on. But people like Tobias as well, for example, right, they said that he did a dissertation, basically. How can you not pick up your dissertation, right, and dump that into AI and tell it to essentially help you not just grade it, but help provide pushback, like help me question all the assumptions I've made in the dissertation, right? All the conclusions I've made, help me question them. Like, I want to be able to debate with someone, right, that could let me know, okay, have you thought about this way of thinking about things, right? Slowly but surely, you're going to start coming to a place where you start realizing that a lot of these places that are probably letting these people go or not hiring them, at all in the first place, in Tobias's and his colleagues' experiences, right? These companies are not hiring you, right? Are trying to figure it out themselves. We've been saying it, and we're going to keep saying it again. This is something else we keep saying on this channel, is that for the amount of people, workers, employees, whatever, that are scared, they will not believe just how scared the employers are themselves, right? Those that are seen to be the, seniors or the higher ups, just how frightened they are of this as well. And one would think, oh, because they have all the resources in the world, they're able to, utilize the best form of AI in order to get the best results, that is a good argument. But at the same time, there's something that is so unique. There's something that is so fresh about somebody that has not got all of that is going to naturally want to use their brain, because when you have all these resources, you might just want to not be as committed, right? You might not be as excited to use AI, to ask the questions, to see what it can do. You just think to yourselves, well, I'm going to just ensure that I upgrade to the maximum level of what can be provided with this AI, and it can think for me. Well, somebody that is challenging themselves, right, like a Tobias would be challenging himself to, let me see how much I can get out of AI, right? Asking the right questions, iterating continuously. This is somebody that could essentially revolutionize the area of consulting. And this is, again, if people just saw it that way, which obviously they won't, because they're not understanding. First off, many people don't even know a lot of the tools that are at their disposal. Someone like Tobias most probably knows about, the chat GPTs of this world, basically, right? But does he know the mid-journeys of this world, right? Which that might not be useful to him. But does he know of the Replit of this world? Because if he was to go on to Replit, and say, well, first off, go on to ChatGPT, ask the right questions. This is what I'm facing. I tried to get a job in consulting, I couldn't, and the reason is because of this. I was told by the company, this is it here. This is after I had went to work experience, did this, did that. I found these issues when I was doing work experience and so forth. If you bring that whole all that information, if you throw that into ChatGPT and tell it to analyze and tell it to try to spit out and some analysis basically on what it believes needs to be improved, what can be changed, you're most definitely going to find that you'll be able to now pick up all that information, right, and get some instructions on what to request by a request from a platform like Replit. Now, for those that don't know what Replit is essentially a AI platform that allows you to build digital products, websites for anyone that needs a bit more clarity, but it does more than websites. But yeah, digital products like websites, apps, and so forth. So it will essentially just build. If you give it a description, it will build it for you. Then you can continue to improve it, change stuff as you go along, basically. But many people are using it. We can say we're definitely using it over here. Well, we're actually using Base 40 Force. Other members are using Replit, but we're utilizing AI to see what we can create, because the possibilities are absolutely endless. If you're an expert within your field, or if an expert could be someone that's a student, the amount of hours you put in, they say 10,000 hours. If you put in those 10,000 hours and you put half of that into AI, which is 15,000 hours into what you do, as well as, AI tools and understanding it, well, you're definitely going to be able to put together something that is going to work in the real world. People are going to find useful. People are going to find a use case for what you've built in the real world. And if people could just look at what AI is and what it could be for them, then maybe, you know, the sentiment of we have an existential problem here would start slowly but swerving more towards we actually have the opportunity to create existential solutions here. Solutions that people can create generational wealth of, where they won't even have to work again. So that's just our take on this. It's definitely a area where, yes, many people are talking about it. Many people, we're pretty much sharing the same old stuff, but the majority of us are essentially pointing out the negatives, whereas only the minority are pointing out positives, and the minority that know the positives aren't actually pointing them out. They're just using it. They're just actually using it, just getting to work, getting their hands dirty. So, guys, what do you think in the comments, man? Do you think Tobias is absolutely right? Do you think that there is no point in him even trying to do what we're saying, which is start using these AI tools, which are free, by the way, to start building all sorts of ideas, platforms, because we think this is where the world is going. You know, all the limitations that this generation has, what they don't realize is, as much of the limitations you have, the possibilities you have now are even greater. So, I can't get a job. You know, this generation won't be able to afford houses. That's because it's more likely that you'll be able to create jobs, right? So just think about how powerful that is. I can't get a job, yes, because if you now start utilizing AI, you'll be able to create jobs for those within a specific field that you know. You'll be able to create solutions. Even if it's not actual jobs for them, you can create solutions that may help them fit into this new economy where AI is not going to just take over like straight away, right? There's going to be a period of maybe stagnation, let's just call it stability, where things are going to just level out for a second. Well, within that area, companies are going to start realizing, oh snap, we need people that have this knowledge or this knowledge. Well, if you create a platform for people if you create a platform that is the how would you say? We're gonna say the middleman, but we don't necessarily want to use that term, basically. So it will be like the middle base, right? The middle layer, where the worker could use this middle layer platform to gain more understanding, to gain more capabilities and more skills, and then they can meet the employer at that middle layer, right, level, which they can now communicate and realize, okay, yes, this specific app is allowing for us to find use case, like your use case, why we should hire you, right? Somebody like Tobias is somebody that could be in the consulting area that he is, because he said he has experience with running a lot of stuff within the Leeds area when it came to consulting. Is it the consulting like society, what he said he was running? Well, there's a perfect person to probably create, you know, a consulting platform layer that's going to be able to connect businesses and, you know, employees that they may, because it's only going to create, look like the more and more we go into AI, we're realizing that the job roles and the job titles are going to change. They're not going to be the same traditional ones. They're going to be completely new roles that people are going to realize, oh wow, this is a completely new title I'm going to be going into. I need to learn it. I may need to go back into maybe, you know, a year of education, maybe 2 years, right, to get up to speed with it. But at least it's still in my line of work. It's still in my line of study, and what it's not far from what I graduated within. So as a result, let me just, you know, go into this, because this is creating something that we've never seen before. And my role is not only just working for the company. I've almost become a consultant, right, where I'm not tied to them, right? I've got my own autonomy. These are the areas we need to kind of really think about when we really when we adopt the ideas and adopt the thinking of, I can't get a job, everything is doomsday. Well, no, you just not realize the possibilities yet. But I mean, we're just going around in circles explaining that now. That's what we're trying to hit home with. Your possibilities right now are endless. Whether you want to realize that or not is up to you. But all we can say is, please try and start getting your hands dirty like we are, because that's what we're doing right now. We're getting our hands dirty. Get your hands dirty. See what you can build out there. Guys, thank you for tuning in. This is the FinTech Report. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your views on this, whether you agree, disagree, and we shall catch you on the next one.